everyone, welcome back. In the last lecture, we actually started with economics. We actually did a lot of work. We actually went deep into, and we have started, grain by grain, one particle we are doing, and every particle will help us to enhance our knowledge about economics. Let us revise for the first 5 to 8 minutes. What did we see in the lecture? We saw about demand and supply. We saw basic demand and supply. Then we saw economic models. Two-sector model, three-sector model, four-sector model. Do you remember the diagram? In the two-sector model, we saw that there were only two players, one firm, one household. Firms give goods to households, households give labor, and money is exchanged accordingly. What happens in the three-sector model? Government also comes. So when government also comes, government imposes certain restrictions, certain enablers. It acts as certain enablers. It takes taxes from the people. It does so many things, right? So what happens is when government comes, it becomes a three-sector model. Then we saw the basic then we saw the fourth enabler or the fourth participant, which is world market. We import and export from world market. So that was the fourth sector model. So then we saw what is aggregate demand. We saw that aggregate demand is, what is aggregate demand? Aggregate demand is, please you only tell me, C plus I. We saw the whole logic behind this. If you remember, C plus I plus G plus exports minus import. This is aggregate demand, right? We also saw the definition of GDP. We started with the definition of GDP, which is the value of all final goods and services, or the final value of all goods and services produced in an economy during a particular time. That was gross domestic product. Is it not? That was gross domestic product. That was GDP, gross domestic product. Then we also know why it is called as product, because it is a production value. Now why domestic and why gross? We are talking about those things now. Okay. Then we'll come to know. Then we'll go through the ways of determining GDP also, or other types of GDP, GNP, NNP. We'll go through all of that. Okay. So see, gross domestic product. Product is done. Now domestic. Okay. Domestic means within the four walls or within the four boundaries of a country. Domestic means apna, local. Local means all India local. Okay. Now there is a possibility, like I told you, someone from Japan is coming to India and producing. Yes or no? There is a possibility someone from India is going to Germany and producing there. Okay. So when we talk about someone, are we talking about nationality or citizenship? We normally talk about citizenship. See, there is a very thin line between residency and citizenship. So now we are talking about Indian and non-Indian. Okay. So if an Indian is producing, you only tell me, if an Indian is producing goods in Germany, will it be counted in GDP of India or will it be counted in GDP of Germany? Think and tell me, if an Indian is producing any goods in Germany, will it be counted? He is an Indian, bear in mind, he is an Indian, he is apna bhai, he is an Indian, but will it be counted in GDP or GNP? Of GDP of India or GDP of Germany? Think and tell. It will be counted in the GDP of Germany. Why? Because he is producing, though he is an Indian, he is producing in the four walls of Germany. Yes or no? He is producing in four walls, so it will not be counted here. We cannot count it, because when we demand a list of all the producers and all those suppliers, his name will not be there, because we are talking about the four walls of the country. Hence it is called as domestic. Hence it is called as domestic. Domestic apna hai. We are not looking at anyone through the lens of citizenship or nationality or residency. We are not looking at that. Another example, Japanese person is coming here. Samsung has opened its plant in India, right? Biggest manufacturing plant Samsung has opened in India. Tesla has come to India. Apple manufactures phones in India. Now so many people are coming to India, right? So now when we take a list of all the producers in India, irrespective of nationality, do we find a list of Samsung? Yes. He is not Indian. As a company, Samsung is not Indian. Okay, Tesla is not Indian. But is it manufacturing domestically? Yes. He will be counted in GDP of India, but he will not be counted, Samsung will not count its production which is happening in India in the GDP of South Korea. Yes or no? Okay, whatever he is manufacturing there, he will count there. Whatever he is manufacturing here, will count it. Domestic. बराबर है? समझा? What is GDP? Why do we need to measure GDP? We'll come to that. First, let us understand what is exactly GDP. ठीक है, ये हो गया domestic. Now, why gross? Why gross? Gross का opposite क्या होता है? Normally, what is the opposite of gross? Or gross is something whole. Gross is something combined, ठीक है, we reduce something and we come to net, ठीक है, we reduce something, we come to net. So net मतलब we say कि final कितना हुआ बता, you know. So when I say कि I earn, for example, I earn grossly 1 lakh rupees per month, ठीक है, but that is my gross salary. I pay taxes to the government. Net मेरे हाथ में कितना आता है? Let's say 62,000 per month. I invest and so on and so forth. I get to spend 62,000. So that is my net salary. So I reduce something from gross to get net. ठीक है, if you look at any product of chips or anything you buy biscuit, उस पे gross weight and net weight will be mentioned. Gross weight and net weight. So gross weight has weight of the packaging and all of those things. Net weight is the product का content का weight actually, and other things also. If you buy sugarcane and all, so evaporation rates are considered, and then as days passes it becomes lighter because the sugar content is evaporated. So the weight reduces, right? So this is the difference between gross and net. So what is the relevance in GDP, sir? What is the relevance in GDP? What are the two types of goods we saw? What are the two types of goods? First one was consumer goods. Second one was capital goods. ठीक है, consumer goods and capital goods. अच्छा, let me this तो we are going to refer to. Sorry. See, this is our second lecture after starting the subject matter, but I will assure you that you can read little bit of economic survey from this lecture itself. I will show you economic survey, some part of economic survey, and you will be able to read it. You tell me you are able to read it or not. If you understand little bit of that also, see, economic survey is considered to be the highest level. If you are able to understand that, we are able to understand economics. Okay? It is the highest document produced for our purpose. So from this lecture only I will show you some bits and pieces of economic survey. You tell me whether you are able to understand or not. If 50% also you understood of that or those paragraphs, we are successful in our endeavor. Okay? Consumer goods, capital goods. Capital goods, what are capital goods? Which are used for producing further goods. Consumer goods, which are consumed directly. End use, consume, finished, done. What are consumer durables? Somewhere in between, but still a part of consumer goods. They last a long time. They cost a little bit higher, but they are not used for producing further goods. Okay, consumer goods done, capital goods done. Now coming to capital goods, we spoke about so when capital goods are produced. So now imagine you are the firm of capital goods. You are the firm member, or you are the seller of capital goods. We saw in the last example there was firm, there was household. I'm sorry I don't have that screen here. It got deleted, but there was firm here, there was household here. We made a whole 4-sector model here. Okay? So firm, I told you, firm acts as household for capital goods. If you remember, firm will buy machinery from someone. Someone is making that machinery, and that person will be the firm, and this firm will become the household. I hope you are able to understand. If not, you can see the previous lecture. In that we have explained in detail. Okay? So capital goods ka purchase is done, machinery is purchased, very good. Okay? Let's say in total, in economy, total demand of capital goods is 100 machines. Okay? 100 machines. Now, when this firm will use the machine, so today new machine is purchased, you are making products, you are making Maggi noodles, you are making biscuits, you are making so many products, you are making phones, different kinds of machineries you are making, products you are making. But what do you think? Every year will the efficiency reduce of the machinery? Will the efficiency remain same of the machinery, or will the efficiency increase? What do you think will happen to the efficiency of the machinery? It will reduce, because wear and tear hota hai. Your mobile phone, the biggest, after 2 years, it shows its true colors. है ना? It starts hanging, PUBG doesn't load fast, earlier it used to load fast. So machinery will reduce efficiency. Okay? So if you plot it, your efficiency will go down as time passes. Okay? Here is time and here is efficiency. It will go down as time passes. Right? At a certain point of time, it will be time to replace it. Like with any other capital goods which we use laptops and all. After a point of time, so I'll tell you honestly, my laptop mein loudspeaker doesn't work, mic 3.5 mm mic port doesn't work, and my laptop gives blue screen of death error of Windows randomly. I tried to reinstall Windows, but some problem is there. And one more thing, if you copy paste heavy files in my laptop, 2-3 GB in my laptop, then it does not hang. You know what it does? It just powers off automatically. automatically it says कि हमसे ना हो पाई, मुझसे नहीं हो पाएगा, and it powers off. So it is time that my laptop is near the end of its term. It is time I either replace it. I even put in an SSD, I increase the RAM, but after all, nothing can save a person who is on deathbed, isn't it? So after a point of time, firm will say, I have to buy new machine. 10 years gone, let's say 0 year, 10 years. ठीक है, 10 years के बाद let's say firm will say I will buy new machinery. Where it will go to buy new machinery? It will call it supplier. It will again become an household and called supplier. Another firm who is making this capital good and will say कि sir I want a new machinery for which will last for more time. New machinery will last for further 10 years. ठीक है, so we take a list of all what is produced. Remember in GDP, all consumer goods, all producer goods, all investment capital goods we take. So we saw कि 100 machines were produced in current year. ठीक है, suppose 100 machines. Now can I say कि not all 100 machines were used as new machines? Some may be used as replacement to old machines also. Can I say that, see, if a machine is produced, it means in your economy that much capacity is being added. Yes or no? If a machine will make 10,000 units per year, it means in your economy you can make more 10,000 units per year. Are you understanding? I'll again give an example. Let's say if Tata Motors establishes a new plant in, let's say, Gujarat, for that it will require new machines. Okay? So if I say ulta, if Tata Motors is purchasing new machines, can I say that they are going to increase production capacity? Can I say that new capacity will increase now? Okay? They are going to make more cars now. Okay? That is one part of it. New capacity addition is one part. New capacity addition is one part. Second part is replacement of existing machines, which means Tata Motors ka old plant is now retired, old machine. New machine is brought in place of that old plant. Capacity remains same, yes or no? It is not expanding. Earlier it used to produce 5,000 cars per annum. Machinery kharab ho gaya, machinery went destroyed. ठीक है, new machine is purchased. Now it is only making 5,000 cars only, na replacement. That machine is also working. Plus a new machine is brought in, which means it is doubling its capacity. ठीक है, so if I take a list of all the machines sold in India, all the capital goods sold in India, I can divide those into two parts. Some of them might go in replacement, some of them might be new additions. ठीक है, बराबर है? So those which go in replacement, they are not adding to my capacity, yes or no? So I should not count those. ठीक है, they are not adding to my capacity, I should not count those. So to simplify this, a machine has a particular life of 10-15 years depending on the class of machinery. ठीक है, so furniture will stay, let's say, 5 years, suppose. Machinery will stay 8 years depending on the class of machinery. So what we do is, to avoid a hit of one big amount in 1 year, efficiency loss to every year हो रहा है ना. It is not कि यहाँ से यहाँ we reached immediately. It is gradually happening. So what we do is, the expenses which will be required for new machinery, we divide those into the number of years. We just divide it. If we take 10 years, see, this is all accounting. I am going into accounting. So don't worry about how those years are determined, what rate is determined, nothing. Simply speaking, every year there is little bit efficiency loss. Okay? So you reduce that efficiency loss, because today you are producing 10,000 units in, let's say, 1 day. Tomorrow you will produce 9990 units in 1 day, na? Because efficiency loss ho raha hai. Machinery will require more oiling, machinery will require more expenditure, machinery will require constant servicing after 5 years. Okay? So what you do is, every year you reduce something from your GDP. Why? Because that is going to be added as a replacement later on. See, it's okay if you don't understand this thing, because this has a close correlation with accounting. And I don't want to take you in accounting, because that is a separate wormhole altogether. So just keep in mind this thing, ki from GDP, every year, what total machines which are operating in the country, total, just imagine, total machines which are operating in the country, uska every year you take some part, some cost of it, and you reduce from your GDP, because that indicates efficiency loss. So today 100 is your GDP, tomorrow it will be 99, because in the same period you will not be able to produce 100 worth of goods. Your machinery becomes slower. ठीक है? Okay? So when you reduce that means what? When you reduce that something, I have not given it a name yet. When you reduce that cost, so let's say a machine costs 1 lakh rupees. ठीक है? and we assume ki it will last only 5 years, which means divide by 5, which means every year 20,000 worth of efficiency is wasted or is reduced. Khatam ho jayega after 5 years. So this year 20,000 gone, 80 remains. Next year 20,000 gone, 60 remains. Next year 20,000 gone, 40 remains. 20, 0. Barabar, in 5 years. So every year 20,000 is your kharcha, because at the end of 5 years you will incur new 1 lakh. Barabar hai? And that new 1 lakh will have to be incurred as expense for replacement, not for new machine. It's okay if you don't understand. Because without telling you the accounting part of it, I can't really explain all this thing. But it's fine to know for UPSC purpose and even for general economics purpose, it's fine to know that every year your efficiency loss is reduced from your GDP. Why it is reduced from GDP? Because that represents a kharcha, and for that when you reduce your, so you say ki I have produced 1 lakh worth of goods, sale हुआ है consumer and all, but उसमें मेरा machinery का efficiency भी कम हुआ है. My machinery in producing 1 lakh worth of goods, my machine has lost an efficiency of 15,000. ठीक है, my machine has lost an efficiency of 15,000. So net मेरा product after considering all expenses on machinery, net product is how much? 85,000. In our example, it is 85,000. 1 lakh minus 15,000. Right? So this becomes net domestic product. NDP. Have you heard of NDP? Net domestic product. We reduce the efficiency loss of the capital goods involved in further production of goods which are used to calculate GDP. We reduce the efficiency loss because we want to replace it in future. We reduce it because it is our expense. It is not a cash expense. Okay? We are not paying this 20,000 now. We are just assuming. This is an accounting concept. We are just writing in our records ki 20,000 is my efficiency loss. See, today you buy a phone and next week you try to resell it. Can you resell at the same price you bought? No. You will have to discount 5-10,000. Na second hand ho gaya. Even if you keep it in the box itself, not even open, still the person will say ki I will not pay you full amount. I will give you 5,000 less for that amount. Otherwise he'll buy new na directly. So efficiency loss can happen due to use also, can happen due to any other factors also, right? There are some wooden articles like furniture. Let's say furniture is kept in a damp corner of the room. There is water logging and all. Furniture will get damaged. Okay? You are not even using the furniture. Just because of some environmental conditions, furniture is damaged. Right? There will be, for example, sugarcane. The more you keep it, the more dry it becomes. It loses its sugar content. So just because of lapse of time, you are losing your weight or you are losing your efficiency. Sugarcane ka efficiency is reduced. That is why sugar industries are located near to source, because cane to sugar factories have to be very fast. Otherwise, their sugar content is lost. We'll do this in agriculture. Okay? Coming back, for now, GDP minus efficiency loss of machinery or of the capital goods involved in the production of consumer goods will be called as NDP, net domestic product. Now, the name which we give to this efficiency loss, the name which we reduce from gross to arrive to net. I told you reduce something. So in the journey between G and N, what you reduce, the efficiency loss every year is called as depreciation. Fancy term, depreciation. Okay? In accounts there is a separate code or there is a separate standard which goes more than 50-60 pages, which only runs on how to account for depreciation, how to determine ki your asset will work for 5 years and not 6 years, how to determine the rate of depreciation, how to account. Uspe pura the literature runs for more than 60 pages only on depreciation, and this is one part. So for us, it is important, it is enough to understand that gross minus depreciation is net. Okay? So let me add this. Okay? Gross minus depreciation is net. Okay? Gross minus depreciation is net. Depreciation, the technical definition is it is the reduction in the value of assets, reduction in, this is mentioned in that accounting standard, ठीक है, reduction in the value of assets resulting due to physical wear and tear, obsolescence, obsolescence means outdatedness, lapse of time. See, even if you buy an iPhone today, if you do not use it a period of time, GDP, ठीक है, then when you reduce depreciation it becomes NDP, net domestic product, ठीक है. Now then we spoke about ki what will happen if Japanese person comes to India and produce, will it be counted in GDP, yes or no? Yes, because he is producing in India, ठीक है. Anyone who might come who is producing in India is GDP. What if I want to calculate ki how much is, so this is Atmanirbhar Bharat, you know, this is, we are doing ourselves. Sorry. ठीक है. So GDP. Now come, make in India and all of that, we are encouraging you, come, you make for us, we will help you and all of that. But we want to calculate ki how much are we doing in the world, मतलब हमारा क्या contribution है in the world, what is our contribution in the world. Now we come to nationality and citizenship. How much are Indians producing, how much are Koreans producing, how much are Japanese producing, irrespective of domestic boundary. Anywhere, Indian can produce in Australia also, Indian can produce in Korea also, Japan also. Total of all production of Indians, including India, total of all production of Indians, including India. ठीक है, all production of Indians, including India, that will be known as gross national product. GNP, have you heard of GNP? Gross national product. ठीक है. Now you tell me, you help me, I want your help in this. We have GDP, we reduce depreciation, we get NDP, net domestic. Chalo, fine. We have GDP, I want to reach to gross national product. Now what should I do? What should I add? What should I less? Because GDP is domestic में सबका है ना. You want to separate outsiders का, non-Indians का you have to separate, and Indians outside India का you have to add. Yes or no? Because I want to find India's total production, right? So India's exports, or India, TCS is also operating in America and South America and North America, and they are also providing services there. So you have to add all those things. So what should I add and what should I less? I should add less, कुछ तो हटाना है. So what should I add? I will add Indians income abroad. Yes or no? I will add Indian income abroad. So whatever India is earning, Indians are producing. See, whatever they are producing is equal to what they are earning. I will prove in next slide or next this thing. Indian income from abroad. What will you reduce? Foreigners' income in India. ठीक है. Foreigners' income in India I will reduce. कि now we are becoming nationalist. So now in economics we are reducing foreigners' income in India. ठीक है. And what is the logic behind it? I'll tell you. See, Samsung, if it manufactures in India, it sells to Indian people, it sells to outsiders also, but it is manufacturing in India, it is earning money in India, but that money it will not keep in India, it will take it away to its home country, because it will transfer the money from Indian Samsung to South Korean Samsung headquarters, the money will go back. So that is why, and same goes for Indian people. What TCS is earning, Infosys is earning outside India, it will transfer back to headquarters or main company in India. That is the logic. So that is why we want to determine ki net Indians का कितना earning है. So what you will do is you will add Indian income abroad, you will reduce foreigners income in India, then you will get Indian income, world Indian income. Yes or no? Be it India, be it outside India, world income, world Indian income. ठीक है? Then you will get GNP. बराबर? Am I right? Now this you will find in books that this particular thing has a fancy word. First I told you the desi version. Now I'll tell you the polished, sophisticated, fancy version which is used. This total net. ठीक है? You remember export minus imports को we told net exports. This is net exports. Fancy version is exports minus imports, net exports. So if net exports are positive, you tell me, are exports less or are exports more? If I tell you if net exports are positive, which means net export is more than 0, then is the export more or import more? The export is more because export is 120, import is 100, net positive. If I tell the net exports are negative, which means net exports are minus 80,000, which means your imports exceed exports by 80,000. Simple. Similarly, fancy term for this is depreciation. Fancy term for this is net factor income from abroad. Oh, so much of fancy thing. Net. This you will find in books. Factor income from abroad. NFIA. Have you heard NFIA? Have you seen NFIA in the books? Okay, NFIA, net factor income from abroad. So what is the formula? Just books mein formulas are given na. GDP plus net. See why it is called NFIA. So pehle to you are doing net of this. Okay? Just imagine it as export minus import only. It is a similar way. Indian income from abroad is 200 rupees. Foreigners income in India is 50 rupees. Net 150 will be added to GDP to arrive at GNP, correct? So this is net, is in dono ka net hai ye, net. Factor income, we spoke about factors of production, we spoke about land, labor, capital, enterprise. So net factor income, whatever they are getting from abroad, net from abroad. If I write gross factor income from abroad, then only this will be added. If I write net, then this is reduced, plus minus, okay, you arrive at GNP. So GDP plus NFIA is GNP. Is it understood? Okay. See, these terms come in books, come in UPSC exam, come in newspapers so often, and economic survey, that we fail to realize what does it mean actually. GDP, GNP, something is there, some difference is there. And please do not by heart GDP minus depreciation NDP. Know the logic behind it also. At least the preliminary logic. It is the efficiency loss which is being accounted for. And why gross ka net? Because of depreciation. Why domestic ka national? Because of net factor income from abroad. So now tell me, if I give you GNP and I ask you to calculate GDP, will you be able to do it? What you will do? GNP minus net factor income from abroad. Okay? You will add this, you will reduce this, and you will arrive at GDP. Reverse calculation. समझ आ रहा है? All good, very good. Okay, we started with a lot of basic things: demand, supply. I also told you about consumer surplus. I told you about classical economics, and now we are slowly moving our way ahead in the conceptual part. Okay, gross. So now, can I say? हाँ चलो अभी GNP में से depreciation हटाएंगे तो क्या होगा? What will happen when I reduce depreciation from GNP? If I reduce depreciation, will I get NNP? Okay? Because this is still gross, na? If you want to net it, you will reduce depreciation. Depreciation of machines used all over India by Indians. वो भी depreciation amount will also change. So depreciation, gross minus depreciation, you arrive net. Domestic plus national, net factor income from abroad, you arrive net, national. And product to product ही है. Final goods and services, product. Is it clear? Okay. By the way, next lecture is very important because we'll be directly starting with fiscal policy and why they are important and what government does. It's going to be a very nice ride together. So please stay tuned. And I hope this approach is helping you because these are the basics. And you know, MCQ comes. GDP, they will give you the formula ki gross NNP is what? GDP plus this minus this, NDP plus this minus this, 4 options are given. And then you have to choose. So just imagine if you are confused between plus minus or gross net or this. If you are confused, your answer is bound to go wrong because the options are so confusing there. So just keep clarity in your mind. Indian income abroad, foreigners income in India, plus ye hoga because we are trying to find national, minus ye hoga because they are not nationals. They are domestics, but they are not nationals. ठीक है, cool. You remember in 1936 what happened? We had discussed in 1936 what happened. A book was released called General Theory of Unemployment, Interest and Money. That book was released by our Lord J.M. Keynes, John Maynard Keynes, and we spoke about Keynesian economics. We have not we just know that Keynesian economics said that government should intervene. How it should intervene, how it should not intervene, that we are going to see in a while. ठीक है? So ये हो गया, final goods is done. Double, I hope you know what is double counting. We avoid double counting because they are already counted when they were sold to the producer. 2-sector model is done, this is done, circular flow is done, 2, 3, 4 sector model is done, C plus I plus D plus X minus dem is done. What is this? What is A? It is aggregate, aggregate, total demand. It is aggregate demand. You remember this small chart which we had made? Small graph which we had made, you remember this? What was this? This was, I told you, I gave you a word which is equilibrium. Remember, this is, so when prices of demand supply meet, the price at which they are sold or the demand at which transaction occurs, it is known as equilibrium demand. Okay? Now I'll tell, equilibrium is in balance. In economic terms, that demand, that level of demand where producers and sellers, producers or sellers and buyers agree this much quantity will be sold. In economics terms, it is called as effective demand. Effective. Okay, effective demand. Now, see, aggregate demand might not be effective demand because this is the total demand in the economy. Whether it is equilibrium or not, that we'll have to see ki whether there are supply constraints or not. See, demand itna hai but supply nahi hai, then it will be aggregate, but it will not be effective. Okay? These are just terms which you need to know. We should not go into depth. Now, when we know what is GDP, we should know how to count GDP. We know that list liya hai, we have added all those things, very good. But we should know that how to add or how to calculate GDP. Now, let me give you a very simple example, very simple. Okay? So, this is one person, he has a factory. Okay? He has a factory, he produces, let's say he produces, क्या बनाएगा वो? He produces biscuits. Okay? You are a person, you go to buy to produce biscuit. Okay? Now he has 2 people working for him who produce biscuits, right? You go to him and you ask, sir, I need a biscuit packet, what is the cost? He say 50 rupees. You will give rupees 50. Okay? He will give you one biscuit, one packet. Barabar? Now, why did you give 50? Because it was the price, it was the value. So, which means that he must have set the price at 50 rupees. So, let us break this 50 down now. How did he arrive? We have seen that how we arrive, raw materials, labor charges and all of that. Does this 50 include his profit also? Yes, we saw that. Okay? Is profit a factor of production ka remuneration method? Yes, because enterprise gets profit. So, it is his brainchild, his recipe which has made this biscuit. So, this 50 rupees will have a part of his profit also. What he will do with this 50 rupees? Isko mila 50 rupees. What he will do? He will first pay them salaries out of this 50 rupees. Okay? Let us say there is nothing else involved. We are simplifying it. There is nothing else involved. He gives 30 rupees salaries. 15 isko and 15 isko. Okay? What? How much remains? 20 rupees remains. This 20 rupees is the profit of this guy. Okay? He keeps the 20 rupees, he gives 15, and I will keep 20. They are like a family. Okay? How much did he spend? 50 rupees. How much did he receive? 50 rupees. How much did he get? 15 rupees. How much did he get? 15 rupees. How much did he get? 20 rupees. Okay? So if I ask you, very simple, how much did the factors of production get? What will you say? what is the income of factor of production? What is the income of factor of production? You will say, who are the factors of production? Three people are the factors of production here. He is getting profit and they are getting wages. And we had seen in the last lecture, profit is also factor of production, remuneration, wages also. Profit कितना है? 20. Wages how much? 15 into 2, 30. ठीक है? Total 50. So I say factors of production have got rupees 50 rupees. Done. I will call this as 1. ठीक है? So, acha, how much did he spend from his pocket? How much did he spend? 50 rupees. So, if I want to ask you, what is the total expenditure? This was the total income. What is the total expenditure in the economy happening? 50 rupees by the consumer. Final goods hai, final goods. 50 rupees is the expenditure. ठीक है? I will call this as 2. Right? Now I will tell you, I will ask you, how much is the price of goods in the economy? So if I demand a list of all the incomes of factors of production, I will get 50. If I demand a list of all expenditure incurred on final goods, I will get 50. Now I am demanding how much is the price of all the goods in the economy. So in our example, there is only one biscuit packet. So the price of that is how much? How much? 50. ठीक है? Right? The most complicated thing of determining GDP is the different methods of calculating GDP, and I have simplified this for you. So one is counting GDP by income method. This is called as income method, also known as factor income method. Now you know why we spoke about net factor income from abroad, because that is also a method of counting the product. Factor income method. ठीक है? This is one. 2. What did we ask for 2? क्या list मांगी? What list did we ask when we wanted 2? How much is the final expenditure happening in the economy? So he is purchasing for 50 rupees. ठीक है? So this is known as expenditure method. ठीक है? In the third case, what did we ask? कि कितना प्रोडक्शन है उसका, what is the value of your production? You have made one biscuit packet, what is उसका value? He will say, sir, 50 rupees. Yes or no? He will say 50 rupees. This is known as the method of going by the product value, the definition which we saw, final value of all goods and services produced in the economy. This is the definition of it, is called as product method or output method or value added method. See, there are a lot more names you will find for these methods. I am just telling you a few of them. Product method, and they are not that relevant. Only the main names are relevant. Product method or output method or value added method. Sir, what is value added? That brings us to the next level or the next grain in our knowledge, which is value added. What is value added? See, we are going very slow because we want to crystallize all the concepts, crystal clear, saaf, and do this in the lecture and on the same day itself. When you will get the lecture probably at 11:30, see the lecture, revise it, and if you don't understand, ask me and get clear with your concepts. Okay, product method, output method, value added method. Now you can understand product method because we saw one packet of biscuit was produced which was valued at 50 rupees. Output method is also same because naam same hi hai, product output. Now what is this value added method? So let us move on to next level, which is value added method. I will take an example which you will find it very easy to relate. Instead of giving my own example, I will give an example which is already mentioned in the book, so that when you read, you revision भी हो जाएगा and you will be very thorough with it. So value added method. So let us imagine now. Let us imagine there is a baker and there is a farmer. ठीक है? He sells cakes. Baker sells cakes. What is the main raw material he will require from farmer? Maida or wheat or whatever, atta. ठीक है? So let us say farmer gives maida to baker. Baker sells cakes to consumer. Yes or no? Is this the supply chain? Right? This is the supply chain. ठीक है? We are assuming, for the simplicity sake, there is no other input involved, there is no labor involved, there is nothing involved. Okay? We are assuming कि this is the supply chain. Now, farmer grows or produces maida worth 100 rupees. ठीक है? Out of that, maida worth 50 rupees is sold to the final consumer like us. We use maida in our homes also. So this is sold in the market, and next 50 rupees he sells it to the baker. He has sold everything. बराबर है? What will he do? Will he sell cake at 50 rupees? No. He will sell at a higher price. Let's say he sells cake at 200 rupees. ठीक? He will account for his own profit, his own labor and all of that. He will sell at 200 rupees. Now, let us apply the third method which we saw. Product method and all of that. Final value added method. ठीक है? I'll show you how. ठीक है? Always remember these two words. These two words will be useful in GST also. GST, the whole GST concept is based on value added. ठीक है? We'll talk about it in GST lecture. In that lecture, we'll spend 1 hour on the working of GST back end में. How does it work? And then we will understand it. ठीक है? So now see value added. English, normal English. Value added. मतलब what is my contribution to the world? What is not already existing? ठीक है? New contribution. नया क्या है? So if I ask you, how much has farmer added value in the economy? How much has farmer added value in the economy? What new has he done? उसने खुद से on his own what new has he done? Is it 50 rupees or 100 rupees? Think and tell me. If you go to the farmer and if you ask what have you done in the economy, how much value have you added? He will say 50 rupees I have added or 100 rupees I have added. You only think and tell. Creating when nothing was there, how much has he created? 50 rupees or 100 rupees? How much is the final value added? Final value. For farmer, now think from farmer's angle. Farmer will say, sir, 100. 50 I have sold to baker, 50 I have sold to household. I have added 100 rupees. Okay. Farmer will say, I have added 100 rupees. See, I have given birth to 100 rupees worth of goods. Yes or no? That is my value added. That is not something which was already existing. I have added. That is my contribution. That is my giving away. That is my activity. बराबर? You go to baker. Okay, you ask farmer, did you use any input materials? Did you use? So he say no. For the purpose of our simplicity, we say he has grown maida without any input. See, it seems very weird, but always know that he would have purchased seeds, wheat seeds and all those seeds from some other person. That person would have produced those seeds from other person. So we have to understand it. We have to cut the chain somewhere. Okay? So imagine he is making his own seeds without using any other help. He is growing maida. He said 100 rupees is my contribution to the world. I have given to the world 100 rupees worth of maida. Chalo. Okay? Then we ask him, have you used anyone else's raw material? He says no. Everything is mine. Okay? Chalo. Maybe he would have produced his own seeds of 25-30 rupees, his own labor of 40-45. Total 100 aaya. He sold it to 50-50 mein becha. Now we ask baker, how much is your value added? Now tell me, how much is baker's value added? How much has baker given to the world? Think. How much has baker given to the world? Baker will say, I have given 200. Okay? And then red lights go on flashing in our minds. But sir, 50 rupees is there, which is farmer's 50 rupees. Maida you have used worth 50 rupees. Okay? You tell baker, you have not added 200, you have added only 150. 50 to farmer se liya hai. 50 rupees worth. See, you tell the baker, you have not created maida, right? Maida you have used. 50 rupees you have used. Over and above that, 150 rupees worth of material, baking, decoration, dry fruits, everything you have done on your cake. I agree. That is your contribution which was not existing earlier. Yes or no? Maida was existing earlier. Okay? So farmer ko you say ki sir, your is not 200, your is 200 minus kitna? 50. Okay? 50 only na, because this 50 is directly sold final mein. तो 50 ही आया ना baker के पास, not 100. So 150. So baker will say ki, are you understanding the concept of value added? His own contribution, value added. ठीक है? For example, I teach you this lecture, you get notes and all. You read something in the newspaper and then you add to your notes. That is your value added. Whatever notes we are giving here, that is our value added. ठीक है? So if I ask you what is your total notes, so you show me the bunch of total notes, but उसमें से 50% is what we have given, 50% is your value added. Are you agreeing? Your underlining is your value added, but printing is our value added. ठीक है? We are creating something which we are giving. Similarly, we say baker, 200 rupees is not your value added, 50 rupees is his value added, your value added is 150. Okay? Now, by value added method or by the third method, which is also known as product output value added method, we get a list. We get a list of value additions in the economy. We get a list of outputs in the economy. So, do you think it will have one product cake or two products cake and maida? It will have two products. Okay? When we ask for a list of value added, we will get two products. One maida. How much? 100 rupees. Okay? New hai na? It is new. Second cake. How much? 150 rupees. Why? 50 hata hai. This is the intermediate good we talked about. You remember final goods. Why GDP's definition is final goods? Because if we had added or remained or not reduced 50, it would have inflated to 200 plus 100, 300. But that is not real, na? 50 double count ho raha hai. 50 is counted here also, 50 is counted here also. This is double counting, which we spoke about. Okay? This is double counting. Since it is already counted once, since we demanded a list of products which are produced in the economy, maida is already counted, then you cake may you reduce maida from that and net cake you take as 150. How much is your total GDP by value added method? So can I say that 250 is the value added in the economy by both people together? Okay? 250 rupees value is added. Very good. Farmer has added 100 rupees worth of value, baker has added 150 worth of value. दोनों मिला के हुए और together they are 250 worth of value is added. 250 worth of product is manufactured. 250 worth of output is done. ठीक है? This is GDP by value added method, and the concept of value added is so important in economy to understand. Taxes work on value addition. ठीक है? Just one glimpse, I couldn't control myself. He will not be required to pay tax on 200, he will pay tax on 150. Why? Because on this 50, he has already paid tax. ठीक है? This is GST concept. He has paid GST when he sold this 100 rupees. 50 isko, 50 isko. Then when you go to baker and ask GST on 200, baker will say, sir, 50 rupees pe I have already paid tax I have given to farmer who has paid you. ठीक है? Farmer will vasool tax from baker. When you eat Domino's pizza, you have GST in your bill, right? So they take GST from you only, right? So when farmer will pay GST on 100, he will pass on that GST to baker. When you ask baker GST on 200 rupees, baker will say, I have already paid on 50 when I purchased this 50. So baker will say, my net value added is 150, so tax me on 150. That is the concept of GST. Okay, I just gave you a small trailer of value added, why this is very important. ठीक है, done. So now we agree कि 250 is the GDP by value added method or output method or product method or production method. You know, there are so many names. I remember one very funny name, dumping method or something like that it is called. I had read it in some of the book. Chalo, continuing with our example. I'll write the core things down here. Baker 100, 50 sold to final consumer. Sorry, not baker, farmer. No? Okay. This was the story, right? 100 minus, not minus, 100 में से 50 is sold to the common consumer, 50 is sold to the baker, 200 is sold to the 200 baker sells to the customer, right? Chalo, next, that was the value added method. So we saw that value added method say we get how much? 250 rupees worth of GDP. That is the production, right? Now we ask, what was the second method? Can you tell me what was the second method? We went for the third method directly here. We come to second method, which is called as expenditure method. We ask final kharcha batao. The word is final. In all GDP definitions, the word is final. Final kharcha batao. List of all the expenditures done finally by the final consumer. What all final consumer is purchasing in this scenario? What all final consumer is purchasing in this scenario? Is he purchasing cake worth 200 rupees? Yes. Consumer is purchasing for 200 rupees. Is it not? Is he purchasing maida for 50 rupees? Yes. 50 is going to baker, but 50 is purchased by final consumer. Yes or no? So one guy is purchasing farmer से directly maida, one guy is taking cake of 200 rupees. Final expenditure दोनों का मिला के is how much? Again 250. Oh sir, magic. Final expenditure. So when you call up your economic secretary and you tell ki I want to determine GDP of, let's say, my building or my society or my district or my state or my country, you can ask him to give you a list of final production, final value addition, or you can ask him to give a list of final expenditure also. To bhi 250 will come. Okay? What was the first method? What was the first method? Factor income method. Okay? The first method was this thing was factor income method. So baker, how much baker is receiving? So we have to determine how much he is distributing to factors of production. That was the factor income method. So baker may, some people might be working with him in the bakery. Okay? There are 2-3 people working in the bakery. He is himself working. It is his own venture. Customer gives 200 rupees ka note to the baker. Yes or no? That 200 rupees में से, what will baker do now? Baker has received 200 rupees from the customer. What will he do? He will pay 50 rupees to farmer. Yes or no? Because he has purchased maida. How much is remaining? 150. That 150 he will give for labor, rent, charges, all of expenses, and rest he will keep himself. So which means I can say 150 is the factor income here. He is himself a factor also. We have established that. So 150 is the factor income here because 50 has gone to farmer. Kharcha hai na raw material. Okay? 200 is not factor income, right? Because baker knows I have received 200. Usme se 50 I have to pay to my supplier. 150 I can distribute it to my men and I can keep it. Okay? 150 is the baker's factor income. How much is farmer getting? Assuming he has 3 people here. Chalo. He has his assistants. Farmer is getting 50 from customer. Farmer is getting 50 from baker, 100 rupees he has, he can distribute it to people, he will distribute it to his people, he will pay for his equipment and he will keep some with himself. So, and he himself is a factor. So farmer ka factor income is how much? 50, which he has got from customer, plus 50 which he has got from baker. ठीक है? कितना है? 100. How much is baker's factor income? 200 में से he has reduced 50 because he has paid to farmer. 150 is the. How much is total factor income? Is it the same as 250? We have used the same figures which are mentioned in the textbook so that when you read it, it will be easy for you to understand. Do you agree that all 3 methods give same result? See, it is nothing but how much did you pay, how much did he receive, and how much did he distribute. Okay? So if I tell you I want wages of all the workers in India. Chalo, jitna labor force we have now, we have crores of people working. If I take all the wages, if I take all the rent which is being paid, if I take all the interest which is being paid, and if I total it, and all the profits which are being earned, if I total it, that will be my factor income method, yes or no? If I take all the production value, that will be my value added method, yes or no? If I take all the expenditure done on final goods, final, and we have established why final is important, then I will get expenditure method, yes or no? In all three methods, will I get the GDP same, yes or no? Absolutely yes, I will get the same GDP. Okay, very interesting, very exhilarating. Now there are some reasons. Now chalo, इस case में we have imagined कि he has only one cake. Let's say कल का भी cake is remaining. I will not go into deep because that is not that relevant, but just food for thought. Let's say he has one cake of yesterday. ठीक है? So let's say he has two cakes of yesterday. So he has 400 worth of mal remaining. He makes a new cake. He sells only one cake. How much is remaining? Still, these are two. This is one. Minus one sold. How much is remaining? Still two cakes remain. Okay? But that is also production. Na? It has been already produced. Right? But this was produced yesterday. This is produced today. One cake is being sold. So if you go by expenditure method, you will realize that only one expenditure you are counting, because final consumer is buying only one cake today. Barabar? If you go by output method, you will realize that 2 is also output, 1 is also output. So the only reason there is a mismatch between methods is because of unsold inventory. Because they are counted in the production method but not counted in the expenditure method. I am giving you one example. There are various reasons and it's okay to not know all of them. Okay? So the difference between methods arrive only because of unsold inventory. Sir, what about like how they are unsold, when to count? So normally we take GDP for 1 year, which is 1st April to 31st March. Financial year is from 1st April to 31st March. Sir, why financial year is from 1st April to 31st March? Because they coincide with the agriculture seasons. Read geography in CRT, will come to know. Okay? There is a committee also which is looking into converting the financial year to a calendar year, 1st Jan to 31st December, because all around the world in developed countries they follow calendar year as financial year, 1st Jan to 31st December. We follow 1st April to 31st March because of our agricultural reasons, our monsoon reasons, right? So, but there is a committee which is underway. I forgot the name. It is from S something, which has the task of suggesting whether we can transition to 1st April, so 1st Jan to 31st December. Why we need to do that? Because accounting is very difficult for 1st April to 31st March. So Samsung India follows a year of 1st April to 31st March. Samsung Korea follows 1st Jan to 31st December. So when you have to consolidate Samsung's accounts, it becomes very difficult to count those 3 months aage piche. That is why we want to keep things simple. And you know, RBI also used to follow year from July to June. July to June. Right? So till 31st March, whatever sales are done, whatever expenditure is incurred till 31st March, till what date? 31st March. Whatever sales are incurred, whatever expenditure is incurred, that will be counted in the GDP. But if it is produced and not sold, उसपे खर्चा नहीं हुआ है. If it is produced and not sold, you have not incurred expenditure on that. So it will reflect in the production method, but it will not reflect in the expenditure method. That is the only way. That is the only reason differences arise. Okay. So you have to add that manually. You have to add an expenditure method. If you are taking one cake, you have to add two cakes so that both of them match because they are produced already. That is the only reason for these differences. Is it clear? Value added, you know, value added method. This is value added. Okay? Now, interesting. Now we come to the practical part of it. So we go to every farmer, every baker, and we calculate the gross value added. Okay? We calculate the value added. Ki sabko bolo. Depreciation karoge, if you reduce depreciation, you will get net value added. That is fine. For the purpose of our analysis, if you understand that gross minus depreciation is net, further studies we do on gross, same thing applies for net also because only the depreciation is the difference. So you go to all farmers, all bakers, everyone you go and you go. So one farmer will give you GVA, second farmer will give you his GVA, gross value added, third farmer will give you his GVA. Okay? So 3, ऐसा जाके you will get n number of GVAs. You club them. You sum them. What you sum is summation of GVA of n numbers. Total producers, total sellers in your country, you take all sabka GVA together and you add them. What do you think you will get? When I say GVA, it is the value added. When I say GVA, it is the value added. So what are we doing in this case? We are doing only value added, na? Sir, you are added 150, you have added 100 rupees, total 250. So we are clubbing all of this. So what is that total called as? That total is called as GDP, is it not? Okay, right? So whenever you read words like GVA in your newspaper, just imagine that. So in India, what we follow is GVA is calculated for sectors or industries. You go to steel industry, you ask them, sir, how much have you produced? How much is your value addition? How much is your contribution to the world? आपने क्या उखाड़ा यहाँ आके? How much did you produce? Right? So once you ask them, steel sector will give you steel GVA. Some others will give you other automobile and all of those will give you GVA. When you club them, you will find India's GVA. So India's GVA is nothing but GDP. Samjha? Is it clear? We are going one step at a time now. The reason being, too much of it becomes too heavy. So all of these are done. Inventories ke baare mein I told you, right? NDP, NNP, NFI, net factor income from abroad I told you. ठीक है? Now let me show you something. Before that, take any metric which we learned, GDP, NDP, whatever. We told that itna production hua hai or this much has been produced. So what are we talking about here? Price or quantity? What this 150 represents what? This 200 represents what? This 100 represents what? This is 1 cake into 200 rupees. Yes. So we are talking about the metric of total. Are we not talking about quantity into price or price into quantity? So if we say 200 cars were produced, so quantity is 200, price is let's say 50k. So total GVA or GDP would be 50k into 200, whatever is the figure. Okay? Similarly, when we speak about GDP, it is in rupee terms. Always remember, GDP is not in unit terms. It is the total, na? Total hai na ye. So this will be in rupees only, na? 50,000 into 200 cars will be total amount only. So GDP is in rupee terms. So if you see our GDP, India's GDP, we aim to become a $5 trillion economy. If you know the goal, it is $5 trillion economy, which means that our GDP should reach that. So when you read in newspapers, GDP increase, GDP decrease, GDP growth, GDP non-growth or whatever. So when we speak about GDP growth, the GDP has been growing, which means compared to last year, GDP has increased so much. Okay? Compared to last year, GDP has decreased so much. So due to pandemic, production was gone. So quantity nahi hai, price ka kya karenge? This is zero, this will be zero. So our GDP reduced, which means last year if our GDP, for example, if our GDP was 1 lakh crore, this year if I say ki it has reduced by 8%. Suppose if it has reduced by 8%, so if you reduce minus 8%, you will get 92,000 crores. Okay? Now very quickly, tell me, very quickly, remove pandemic from the picture up to 2020. If I tell you GDP has been growing, every year GDP grows. So if I say GDP grew by 3%, which means compared to last year, GDP grew by 3%. Then next year GDP grew by 6%, which means usme 6% was added. Okay, now this comparison is done year on year, quarter on quarter, month on month. So quarter 1 of this year, which means April, May, June of this year of 2021 compared to April, May, June of 2020. Quarter 2, July, August, September compared to quarter 2, so on. So you will read this in papers, ki Q1 figures, Q2 figures. So that is Q1, Q2 is nothing but quarter 1 and quarter 2. See, I told you in my lectures, I will enable you to read newspapers so effectively because that is the only support you have for economics. Otherwise, there is no standard book which will give you all the answers for mains and prelims, right? Okay. So GDP we are talking about. So GDP is a currency or an amount, $1 trillion. So GDP of India is now around 2.7 to $3 trillion. Okay. GNP is much more because software exports are a lot. So when you add exports, आपका GDP increases. ठीक है? So before pandemic, GDP did not reduce, right? Now see the play of words here. If I tell you GDP has been increasing, just go before pandemic, GDP has been increasing in the last 15 years. Yes or no? Sorry, GDP has been growing, the word is growing, in the last 15 years. What do you think? Yes or no? If I tell you before pandemic it did not reduce, so yes, GDP has been growing. If I add the word GDP has been growing or GDP has been growing constantly over the last 10 years, is it true? No. Constantly थोड़ी 2%, 2%, 2%, it keeps on varying. ठीक है? If I tell you GDP growth rate has been increasing, is it true or false? It is not, because today you grow at 6%, tomorrow you will grow at 4%, grow at 4%. You are still growing, but your growth rate is not increased, na? Your growth rate has reduced. Growth rate, the percentage I am talking about. This was exactly what was asked in UPSC prelims. GDP growth rate has been constantly increasing. People said, oh, GDP is increasing, yes. But growth rate has been fluctuating. It is growing, it is in positive territory. We are winning matches, but the margin is changing. Sometimes we win by 1 run, sometimes we win by 100 runs. We are winning. Okay? Pandemic say this entire statement becomes false because we went below 0%, minus 9.7%, minus 7%. Okay? So which means that in quarter 2 and quarter 3 of 2020-21, we actually went below 0%, which means we were not growing, we were degrowing, we were reducing. So this play of words is very important, and this you will find in newspapers. So if you read newspapers, there are many editorials, articles which talk about last 15 years, GDP has been this and that, and on that only the question was asked. Do you really think that you will get the answer to this statement कि GDP, the growth rate of GDP has been constantly increasing? You will get this statement का answer in textbook. It is very unlikely. Might be there, but you might not remember. The only thing you will remember is you have read newspapers, you know GDP growth rate keeps on fluctuating, but it is still growing. Now we are again growing, but now we have come to after a dip we are again recovering. ठीक है? Did you understand? Is it too much or can I go on? I can go on, but is it too much for you? So economic survey wala part, so we will have to do it in next lecture, because the next lecture is being recorded, is supposed to be recorded now. I think geography lecture. So economic survey, I wanted to show you a small snippet. I wanted to tell you to read and tell me whether you understood it or not. You know, this happens a lot in our budget sessions. I tell you only to read and you should tell whether you understood all the key terms or not. If you do, then successful. Okay, I told you this is like learning a language. We are learning a language here. We are learning economic language here. So I hope basic concepts are clear. The whole activity of GDP determination we are doing because we want to know how much we have. Kitna hai? You know, now you have started your preparation. After 6 months, you will realize that you have read this book, you have made notes here, you have written in your iPad or tablet, you have written handwritten notes somewhere newspaper notes are lying. You want to know how much you have, so you want to consolidate. For that, we are doing all this GDP nakhras. Okay? Now the question comes, or the thing is, sir, you told that GDP is in rupees, okay, or it can be in dollars also. Of course, you convert it and it is in dollars, which means GDP is an amount. Okay? So I told you, cake wala sold at 200 rupees to the consumer. Do you agree with this? I told you, cake wala sold at 200 to the consumer. Yes or no? I told you, farmer sold at 50 rupees to the consumer. Maida. Okay? Do you think this 200 goes to the baker? Do you think when you give 200 to the baker, the note of 200, do you think it is his money? Or someone else is also waiting for money? Who is waiting? See, 50 rupees to iska hai, no doubt. Uske alawa, is the government waiting? Why government is waiting? वो बोलते हैं ना, अमीर आदमी देखा नहीं हाथ फैलाना शुरू. That is what is happening. I'm just joking. ठीक है? So 200, government will say, hey, give me tax of 5 rupees. Yes or no? Yes or no? Will he say give tax? Yes. So this 200 is not really 200, it is 195 if I were to really count it, because tax gaya hai. ठीक है? Similarly, government will also give some subsidies and all, right? So what does this imply? What does this mean? And how does this factor into the calculation of GDP? Okay? How are these things important? We are now going one layer deeper. पहले simple example 250. Before that, more simple example, GDP by 50 rupees, 50 rupees, 50 rupees. Then one level deeper, 50, 200, 150. Then one level deeper. This 200 is not 200 at all, because this guy baker is getting only 195. 5 rupees the government के पास, 5 rupees is going to the government. What does this imply for calculation of GDP? And how does it factor in our budgeting, and how does it factor in our fiscal policy and monetary policy? And what is the relevance of this? We have not yet discussed this iska relevance. What is the relevance of this in practical life? How do finance ministers, economists use this today? Okay? That we are going to see in the next lecture. Let's meet in the next episode. Stay tuned. Thank you. If you have any doubt, please ask me anytime. We have our doubt sessions on Wednesday and Sunday at 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. So you can come there and you can ask your doubts, right? And I will ask you questions also in those sessions. So hope you have understood it. If you did not understand, then please let me know, and I will try to make it simpler. Thank you so much. And what government is doing, which metric does it use, what kind of GDP does it use, which method it uses for calculation, all of that we are going to discuss in the next lecture. And we are, after having this basic understanding, we are directly going to jump in fiscal policy. मतलब no बीच में nonsense chapters like planning, history, LPG, all of that will come later on. We are going to cover that, but we are going to the core and the juice directly. Okay? So stay tuned for next lecture. Thank you.